discussion. And this week, what we'll be doing is integrating theoretical knowledge into what we've already learned as hands-on knowledge. So I wanted to immerse ourselves in the group process this time, or when I taught this class, before we got to these theoretical factors. And this week we're asking, why is group counseling effective? And I'm having you read chapter 7 from Capuzzi. And I've also given you a lot of material here online. So let's just jump into it and take a look at why a group is effective. So we're looking at therapeutic factors. I've attached chapters 1 through 4 from Yalom. I had a couple of books here to show you, but they're at the office. Yalom is considered one of the, if not the most prolific writer, scholar regarding group therapy, group counseling. I showed you a video of him earlier in one of our earlier weeks. And there are a couple of I actually had to read, when I did my advanced group class, I actually had to read a book by Yalom. This was called, I don't know, bear with me here, if my keyboard will follow along. I'm typing out a German name. So you can see this is a novel written by Yalom. I'm just going to use Amazon because it'll bring it up fast, hopefully. We're going slow. There we are. So you can see this is the Schopenhauer Cure, a novel, paperback. Looks like it was re-authored, what, 2020? Wow, maybe a new edition sent out. Mine looked a little different than this. But Yalom's also authored a lot of books, prolific writer. And I was actually given a book by a student called The Gift of Therapy, written by Yalom. What Yalom does in this book, and this was actually required if you were a group counseling student as a master's level, not just PhD level at Adams State University, you were required to read this. This was required reading to understand group process. And it was interesting. It was an interesting read. I'll give you a quick summary. I actually listened to it on audiobook. It's the only book I've listened to cover to cover on audiobook because I had just didn't have time to read, and I was driving 8.5 hours to Alamosa, Colorado for my residency, and I listened to it. So it's a different kind of book. It's written in two parallel kind of I don't know if you've ever like watched a Quentin Tarantino film where there's flashbacks and things like this. This is a little bit like that, only it's two kind of parallel stories going side by side. One is nonfiction. So there's a nonfiction description of the life of Arthur Schopenhauer, which you're like, what? It's a philosopher. Arthur Schopenhauer was a philosopher, kind of like Nietzsche, I would say, kind of depressing, maybe, I don't know, kind of dry, down to earth. And then you have this fictional story about a group of people that come together for counseling. And so this group of people, the story really is more intriguing if you're like less want dry facts about Arthur Schopenhauer versus this group of people that is participating in group counseling together. There's again, it's a fictional story here, but the fictional story with the group counseling is based on, obviously, if you practice a little bit, you get to kind of archetype different personalities, different folks who've been in different groups. And so Yalom, from decades of practice, writes about this group therapy experience, using, obviously, he protects the identities of the folks. It's really it's an interesting book. It's an interesting take on the way to teach the class. I entertained that design for you all, but I figured that we were so condensed, it would be difficult for you to read a novel and then try to piecemeal the truth that are, that you find in this fictional story and this this Arthur Schopenhauer description of this person's life. It's very strange. One chapter will go into the life of this guy. The other chapter will go into the life of this group. And so the guy lived in the 1800s, really informed Freud, I would say, and the philosophy that and you're like, golly, this guy's into sex. No, that's not it. Just kind of human nature and kind of that Victorian era that kind of emerged that led into our understanding of early understanding of psychology and psychiatry. So the group dynamics, the fictional dynamics take you through the life of a group, take you through the different stages, the forming, norming, storming, working, performing, and adjourning. So it takes you through all of these stages and looks at the life cycle of a group. There's a couple of members that hook up in the group. There, different group members deal with like different aspects of confidentiality. And so it gets you thinking about the different problems and so for those of you that are book nerds, like I can be when I'm not studying for PhD, you can get that book and take a look at it because it was, you can relate it to group counseling. So enough about Yalom and this Schopenhauer cure. I just gave you a little description there. Back to our drawing board. Yalom really indicates, and here are the chapters from Yalom here. If you open this document, this is a real quick synopsis. Yalom wrote a book on group counseling and the therapeutic factors that why group is important. And so this is a nice outline to really cover this. And I'll go into this a little bit. Let me pause here because I've given you kind of an introduction. I hate to keep going for a long time on these. Let me go over this. I think this is an important document.